Mets fans, we have a problem. And the problem that we have is something that has plagued this Mets team in a good portion throughout the 2025 season, and that is their complete lack of consistency. Not only when it comes to hitting with runners in scoring position, the Mets had themselves 8 hits with runners in base and scoring position yesterday. I can only fault them so much. The same way I can only fault the offense so much today as they find themselves in a 6-run hole and not even a total of 4 innings. That's what happens when you have batting practice, aka Frankie Montas, with another less than inspiring outing, looking absolutely horrendous, looking like a man that should no longer be in this Mets rotation whatsoever, and the same exact thing that us Mets fans have been calling for the past 1.5 to 2 months. Where are the kids? I understand. I completely understand the notion to say, hey, bringing up Brandon Sproat or Noel McLean, trying to rush them up is not great for their development. It could hurt their confidence. Things can go awry. That is true. But how many more excuses do we need to make for David Stearns and this Mets team before coming to the reality that this rotation is not only a problem, it's going to continue to be a problem, and the immediate reinforcements for the Mets outside of their young, oh-so-inspiring prospects, and Noel McLean, Brandon Sproat, and Jonathan are guys like Paul Blackburn, who had his latest rehab outing yesterday, as well as Tyler McGill, who threw a bullpen at Citi Field before today's game. I'm sorry, but how can any fan be inspired by the notion that these are the guys that we have to turn to next? Enough is enough. The Mets get absolutely curb stomped in their series finale by a final score today of 12-4. After putting up a 12-piece themselves yesterday, they had no clue how to handle this Giants offense. And when I say they had no clue, this is completely in hand with Frankie Montas allowing every single ball to be put in play. Francisco Lindor had an error that was costly. He was not his best defensively today. There were a lot of blunders that we saw by this Mets infield, but that also goes in direct hand because the ball was constantly in the field. Frankie Montas didn't have a put-out pitch if it smacked him across the face today. Frankie Montas has an over 6 ERA. Frankie Montas, who looked out of shape to begin spring training, went down with an injury as soon as he threw a pitch that we saw in spring, spent all these months rehabbing to get him back, looked horrendous in rehab, had some decent outings for the Mets, nothing crazy thus far, and he just gave you yet a prime example as to why this man can not only not be trusted in this rotation, but why Frankie Montas should immediately be moved to the bullpen. The only reason why Montas is not being DFA'd right now is because instead of bringing back Luis Severino, David Stearns said, let's save $6 million at least on the AV, because Severino approached the Mets with a 2-year, $40 million contract. The Mets said no. They went with Frankie Montas, who's known for his injuries. After having a healthy year between the Milwaukee Brewers and the Cincinnati Reds, they bring him in at $34 million, $17.5 per season, and the Mets look like they look absolutely foolish with a lot of their reclamation projects. It's one thing to get the best out of guys like Griffin Canyon, who far exceeded expectations. It's one thing to have a Clay Holmes who you try to stretch out as a starter, and it worked in the first half, but it ain't working here in the second half. It's another thing to have the vast majority of your rotation be question marks after the trade deadline when starters were available. And I know the next counter that you're going to say right away is the following, but the asking price for these starters were too expensive. I didn't want to give up my top prospects. Okay, if that is truly the case, then you have absolutely no excuse not to have considered one of Noel McLean or Brandon Sproat in the past month and a half prior. Yeah, here we are standing today, all in full expectation and anticipation for the Mets to consider one of these kids over the next week or two. And as frustrating as that sentence is, it is true, everybody. As much as we want to see a Noel McLean or a Brandon Sproat called up by this Mets team, that in itself is still not a guarantee. And you want to know why it's not a guarantee? It's because the Mets can wait until August 15th. If they wait until August 15th potentially to call up one of the kids, they will not have to worry about losing any years of service time. So David Stearns and the Mets, who have some of the largest payroll in baseball, in a win-now stage, would rather prioritize not calling up a kid prematurely to lose a year of service time when we, mind you, have no effing clue how they will perform at the MLB level, yet instead of giving them an opportunity the month leading up to the deadline when you had so many injuries between Kodai Senga, Sean Manaea, Griffin Canning rupturing his Achilles, Tyler McGill, you name it, 4 rotation pieces out of here like that. Yeah, no, let's go with the Justin Hagemans. Let's go with the bullpen game. Let's go with Brandon Waddell, because surely that is in the best interest of this Mets team. Far from it. It's one thing for the Mets to have the continued woes that they have with runners in scoring position. It is absolutely another when you have absolutely no stability in your rotation whatsoever. You cannot sit here and look at me square in the eye and say that you're confident in this Mets rotation beyond 2 to 3 starters, because you simply can't. David Pearson is a dog when he's right. We know that. Sean Manaea is a dog. We just need him to get stretched out more in this rotation. Kool-Aid Senga, when at his best, is one of the best pitchers in the National League, but he has put up now 3 consecutive starts of not giving you beyond 4 or 5 innings of 3 to 4 earned run baseball. This is not going to cut it when you're not only trying to win a division, but to get yourself strapped and ready for what is hopefully going to be a deep playoff run. You cannot look at this rotation and say in confidence that it is a needle mover. So what do you say? You have to consider one of the kids. And miss me with the nonsense that, oh, this might hurt their development. Oh, this might hurt their confidence. What else are they supposed to do? Are they supposed to rot in AAA? Brendan Sproat is about to turn 25. What are we waiting for? You have at least one of these guys that'll be Rule 5 eligible by the end of the year if you do not do something about it. Consider them at the major league level. Not only can we expect the Mets to consider them, but do not be surprised when we inevitably find out, whether it's in the coming days or later, leading up to August 15th, like I told you, if they really want to stretch this, to actually give one of the kids a shot. Not only is it frustrating that Paul Blackburn is in greater line to be added to this team before one of these arms, but here's the thing. What is Paul Blackburn going to provide to this team that's going to be anything better, anything more sustainable than what they haven't gotten out of the rotation at this point? It makes absolutely no sense, everybody, and that's why, as you guys first chime in, hey, not like and subscribe button for not just a typical Mets post-game show. I'm not here to break down any of the Mets getting curb stomped. That's why I'm showing you highlights of something that's a positive. The young kids, Noah McLean, Brandon Sproat, what do they have in common? As you guys can see beside me, 2 arms that need to be considered for this Major League Baseball club. Enough is enough. We'll get into some of the key takeaways from tonight's 12-4 loss, no doubt about it, as we always do, everybody, but this is not your typical post game. This has everything to do with what is wrong with this rotation, how we feel about it as fans. We got my guy $5 Hall. Hey, Wardy, I love you, but they could still be in first after tonight if Detroit beats Philly. I don't care. I don't care. You want to know why I don't care, truthfully? It's because first is fickle to a Mets fan who understands the greater picture of how good this team needs to be down the stretch. And the problem is that the same thing that we have been calling out for 2.5 months on end is still mounting. It's still rearing its head, and nothing has been done about it. When is there going to be change? When is there going to be the proper evaluation to the point that Gary Cohen is on the broadcast for SNY today stating the following, everybody? You know, it really feels like it's time to consider one of the kids, right? And what did Ron Darling say in reply right away without hesitation, mind you? He said that would be great. Mr. Stearns, it is time for you to listen to the SNY broadcast booth. They know a thing or two about the game. I know that you are the man leading the ship, and I know that you feel very confident in your abilities, and I hope that you prove me wrong. But how much more do we have to wait to see the inevitable happen? To suggest that one of these kids will not be up before the year ends is absolutely silly. But the notion that we have to continue to wait until after they are now not eligible to have their first year Eden and service time, I think is even more silly. If you're a win now stage that prides yourself on not only winning now but sustained success, you as David Stearns and the Mets can bite the bullet and handle, God forbid, maybe, just maybe, losing a year of service time of one of your heralded prospects. You want to know why? There is no guarantee they're even going to do anything good at the major league level. So now, after not adding anything at the deadline, and I understand you had your rightful reasons, I'm not beating you up for that. What I'm beating you up for is not spending the month and a half prior leading up to the deadline to see what you had in at least one of these kids, because now you're going to rush them up in the next week or two, and who knows what you get. If they flounder, if they do not perform, you only have yourself to blame because you waited until you had 0 external options available to consider, as well as kids who obviously have been waiting in the wings to get the call of the bigs, but now who knows how they handle the pressure. It's just so idiotic how we found ourselves in this position. We've called it out like a sticking sore thumb that it's been for the past 2 months, and yet here we are in the exact same position, and no no one should be surprised about it if you've been following this team on a daily basis. It pains me to act this way the day after the Mets just curb stomp the Giants, but you have to, as the Mets have now dropped 5 of their last 6 games. This is a major problem, okay? Especially to do it, to get curb stomped 3 straight there in San Diego, to lose 2 out of 3 at home against the Giants, where Dom Smith is the X factor on the offensive end, in the sense that he's absolutely killing it every night. What are we doing here? Genuinely speaking, what are we doing here? I know there's donations. I'm going to get to them all, guys. Don't you worry. But just take a look at this shit show, pardon my French, kiddos, that you see here on the pitching end. How can you justify Frankie Montas towing the rubber his next turn in the order? Newsflash, you can't. And the reason why you can't justify it is because he has single-handedly torn this team down multiple times in the vast majority of his starts. And over 50% of his starts this year, he has been batting practice. How much more do we need to see this garbage before coming to a realization that he just isn't it? Austin Warren, who's called up for Rico Garcia, who I was really pained to see get DFA'd yesterday. He goes for Shuddy because he's the only man that seemed like he gave a rat's ass. Ryan Stanek is now entering DFA territory because as great as Stanek is in playoffs, for those that don't know, he's electric. He wasn't just nails for the Mets in postseason last year. He was nails in the years prior that we saw for the Houston Astros. Stanek is a playoff performer, but the problem is it's getting also difficult to keep this man in the bullpen when he has continued batting practice. He was an absolutely thorn in this Mets side on Friday's loss in extras to the Giants. The same way that Stanek, even in a game that the Mets were not coming back from, we can all agree, was just as equally horrendous, if not worse. What do we have to do to finally come together to say that maybe it's time for Stanek to find himself out of this bullpen, and it's beyond time for, at minimum, Frankie Montas to be pushed to this bullpen, at minimum. And the only reason why we're not seeing straight DFA for Montas is because you have over $17 million in him for this year, and you know sure as hell he's going to opt in next season as well. There's not a chance in heck that Frankie Montas doesn't opt into his contract for next season. The only way that changes is if he stays in the rotation, which is against all Mets fans' belief, including myself, and he goes out and balls out and proves us all wrong. So that's what I have to say about that. And Will, I know, Will, you're the same pessimist that's always yapping about what's wrong with this team. We are aware. You're even the fan that finds himself saying this even when they're in their winning ways. We get it, Will. Congratulations on the victory lap. I'm so happy that you're happy that the Mets are bad right now and we can all revel in this together. So happy to see that. Can't you cue the effing sarcasm? NYM with the $5 holla. Enough with the pitching. What about this offense? They just did role reversal. It's never consistent. I agree. I wholeheartedly agree. But you can't fault the offense wholeheartedly today when you literally look at a 6-run deficit in not even 4 innings. I'm sorry, but the average batter is not going to go up to the plate saying, "Oh, I'm so excited for this game." No, they know that they have to they know that they have to chop away. They know that it takes a little bit of effort to get a long way to start there. They couldn't get the job done, but today's not on the offense. Today's on the pitching. If you think it's on the offense, I implore you to focus on the games, the endless games this season, where the Mets not heading with runners in scoring position were apparent. I know I don't have to act like this, mister. This is not me acting. This is the problem as well, in case you guys are wondering. How we doing, everybody? My name's Wardy. I cover the Mets every single day. I cover every single game that they play. I cover every single thing that the team does. That's why we're the largest platform covering the Mets here on YouTube. But you have no idea on how days like this, I get so unhinged and I get so frustrated because there are so many things that we've been calling out from miles and miles away. Yeah, here we are seeing the exact same thing happen again. And oh, we're supposed to be different? What about this makes you think it's different? It's the same nonsense when Montas was first considered to begin this season. There is no difference. On the offensive end, we have some positives to get into. Not a whole lot. I liked how McLean played today. I loved Alvarez. Really loved Alvarez's play. Lindor offensively, loved the bomb. Defensively, he was a liability. Lindor did not look good in the field at all today. Alonso made a botched throw to first to home after he hesitated. Not a smart move by Pete. But I'm not going to nitpick too much on that. Today is not about the offense because every other day feels like it's about the offense. Today is to break down what is going oh so wrong with this Mets team on the pitching end. So guys, sit back, relax, or maybe be at the edge of your seat. I realize someone like me being this hot-headed and animated can probably either make you feel angst or you could say, I want nothing to do with this guy. I get it. Today's one of these tough days where I really can't hold it back from being my true self. And today's one of these days where when you've been calling it out, going all the way back to early May, and nothing is done about the same continued problem with this team, it's one thing for me to call out the runner and scoring position woes. If you guys follow the platform, we've been calling that nonsense nonsense out since the first series loss of the year against the Houston Astros in Houston. So trust me when I tell you that there's no one on this planet that has a greater understanding of what is right and what is wrong with this team right now than yours truly. That's why I cover them for a living. And today is so frustrating to see, because in a day where you had a prime opportunity to take the rubber match at home on a day game, they completely roll over and die. And it's easy for the bats to roll over and die when you have a pitching staff that has no effing clue what they're doing. Casey with the 10 trade deadline bullpen moves signaled all in. Oh, 100%. You don't get 3 rental relievers without going all in. So lack of aggression fixing the rotation is ridiculous. Stearns speaking out both sides of his mouth. I agree. David Stearns, and I like David a lot. Love the way he did with the bullpen. Love the Cedric Mullins pickup. I thought that was very quality. Made sense for this team. What I don't love about David Stearns is that this is the same man, and we're going to get into all the pros and cons with the how it's not staying true to what is really best for this team that I'm going to expand on in a second. Gabe, thank you so much for the $10 haul. Get Montas out of here. The experiment failed. Bring up Sproat and McLean. Give them time to get started under their belt. They are the future. Stop doing these handyman crap. I 100% agree. We got my guy Greg with a $5 haul. I know we're still tied for first place, but for the love of God, how many warning signs do we need to convince us this team is in trouble? Thank you. And you want to know what I hate about the idea that, oh, we're borderline first place? Who cares? My problem is that you want to know who says the exact same shit every single year? It's Yankees fans. How many times have we seen Yankees fans boast about being in first, regardless of the results? And then when they do not perform well, they're like, how'd this happen? We were in first all year. Pay attention to the context of your team. You don't have fundamental baseball. You don't have depth in your rotation. I'm talking about the Mets now. That's where they lack. There's no quality depth in their rotation right now. It's massive question marks, and this is why you had such a risk by not adding at the deadline. I get it. Merrill Kelly didn't want to come to New York, apparently. According to Adam Ottavino and a recent interview, from what has been relayed my way, Merrill Kelly is not a New York guy. He hates New York, and that's in part why he went to the Rangers when the Mets were actually in the bidding war for Kelly. That's a fact. Should that be true? Okay, I can't be upset about Kelly. The same way that when you have the Marlins asking for 2 top 5 prospects for Sandy Alcantara and his north of 7-year array, yeah, you're not going to love that. The same way as Edward Cabrera, Zach Gallen, and every Mitch Keller, because the Pirates are so effing stupid, could not bother to trade away these guys for anything short of a King's ransom. In hindsight, maybe you want to give up the King's ransom, because maybe that really would have been enough. But I'm not going to sit here again and blame David Stearns for what he didn't do at the deadline. There's a reason why no other team in Major League Baseball got a starter at the deadline of quality, with the exception of the Rangers and Merrill Kelly. And the reason for that is the prices were absurd. Okay, we understand that, but that does not justify or give an excuse for the months prior that the Mets had an opportunity to do something about this rotation internally. I'm not even talking about buying externally. I'm talking about the kids you have on the team. And again, thank you so much again for that donation, Greg. I appreciate that. Let's see, Casey, I don't know how Stearns justifies putting Montas out there for another start. This isn't a out of the blue bad start. He has been bad ever start. Oh, I know. Trust me. I know. Thank you guys all so much for those donations. We're going to talk about how Noah McLean or Brandon Sproat, it is their time to shine. We're going to get into them in just a little bit here, everybody. But let me start with the following. Let's get right into this, okay? So the Mets got curb stomped 12-4 today. Frankie Montas was batting practice. He was constantly allowing the ball to be put in play. That was a big bugaboo. Throwing meatballs down the pipe. Who could have saw this coming? Cough, cough. Everybody and their mother that's been watching the Mets this season. Okay, we have understand that. Now I understand how Yankees fans felt with Montas, right? Now I understand to a degree how Yankees fans even felt as well there in the case of Clay Holmes. Because while Clay wasn't a starter for them, they warned us about his inconsistencies. And they have absolutely mounted over the past month as well. There is no denying that. So let's start with the top. Let's start with the David Stearns philosophy. Let's get into all of his excuses as to why Noah McLean, Brandon Sproat, and to a lesser degree, Jonathan were not considered for this Mets team in the first half. And they were threefold. One, they did not want to use one of their top pitching prospects and a spot start. Okay, but here's the counter. That spot start was a constant turn in the rotation for over a month straight leading to the deadline due to their rotational injuries. Miss me with the nonsense that just one spot start. It doesn't need to be that. If you keep the kid up here, even if he gets rocked his first start, you have him go again. Why? Because that is how you ensure for them to get acclimated at the major league level. No different than Brandon Sproat being horrendous his first first half season or so in Syracuse, he needed to get his seasoning down for a little bit before he got in a groove. Maybe in a case of Sproat, if he was called up 2 months ago, maybe it would have been batting practice his first couple of times out there. But maybe by the time he got to his second or third start, he'd start to see progression. That is something that we're never going to know now because the Mets didn't consider. Then let's get into the second reasoning as to why David Stearns was so privy to call up one of these prospects. And the reasoning was the lack of confidence should they get rocked. They do not want to do that to them. I'm sorry, but every single top pitching prospect in the farm right now wants to touch the major league level. McLean's dying to be in the bigs. Sproat's dying to be in the bigs. Ton, I'm sure, would love to be in Major League Baseball as he leads all of the minor leagues, not just AA, all the minor leagues in strikeouts. It's almost like the Mets have some very exciting pitching talent in the farm, but you wouldn't think that because you have no clue if they're even going to be considered this season. Then let's get on to the third and main reason here in part as to why David Stearns is not considering these kids at this point in time. It's not just because of the spot start. It's not just because of the confidence. It is service time manipulation. That can't be lost. Now, I know you're going to say, oh, well, Brennan Sproat really didn't turn it on until the month of July. That's good. That's a good counter. Here's the thing. Noah McLean has been the most consistent starter since we moved up to Syracuse all year long. Can't justify that you wouldn't consider McLean over Blade Tidwell. The same Blade Tidwell that you utilized just to trade away in a bigger package there for Tyler Rogers. It's almost like you never saw the vision of him actually being with this team long term. The same way we all felt the exact same way. It's service time manipulation 101. The Mets have had their opportunities, yet there's a great opportunity that they're still going to sit on their hands and do nothing. And I mean nothing until at least August 15th. And that means when they can finally call up a kid where they're not going to lose any service time. That's ridiculous. This is what drives me so, oh my God. I just can't. I'm really high-head right now, if you guys couldn't tell. And I haven't been this unhinged in a hot minute, too. It's really been a while since I feel like I voiced this level of frustration with the pitching staff. But let's go back to the top here for my tweet that I had earlier today, because there was one more point that I want to share that I do not want to miss to break down with each and every one of you. And it is as follows. It's not just the service time. It's not just the spot start. And it's not just the confidence. The other key factor that David Stearns relayed to the media, I remember like it was yesterday, is that we are not going to operate based on team need or desperation in the case of calling up one of the kids. But here's the problem with that statement. Here's how it's completely contradictory. If the Mets call up, when the Mets call up one of these top pitching prospects, do you think it's because of the fact that they have confidence instilled in their rotation? No, it's because they're desperate. It's because they actually have no other options to consider and they have to go down this route now. It's because maybe after considering Paul Blackburn again, and he does little to nothing for you, or down the road when Tyler McGill returns and maybe he isn't the guy that you need him to be, that color me shocked. You finally consider one of the kids. Why? Because the rotation needs it. You see how contradictory that statement is, and you see how much it's going to blow up in his face should everything be as expected with one of these guys getting the call. This is why I get so frustrated. It's one thing when things just start to unravel. It is another when we have seen this for months on end. The same way that if the Mets do not hit a lick with runners in scoring position down the stretch this year in a postseason play, we will all have said we call this out since the first series of the year. Yet Steve Cohen, and I love you, Steve, to death. Without you, Steve, none of this is possible with the Mets even being a competent team, let alone a playoff or World Series contending team on a yearly basis. But I won't forget Steve's comment that he made there that we saw around a month ago on Next, saying how the runner in scoring position woes will turn around. They did turn around yesterday. Deserve full credit for beating up in a bullpen game, which is what the Mets are always supposed to do. I credit them for hitting with runners in scoring position. I think the Mets were 8 for 19 yesterday, which is amazing. I don't remember the last time the Mets got 8 hits with runners in scoring position. That's great. That's good and all. But when that is so few and far in between, and the pitching yet again shows you how it's so far from stable, when are we going to reach the point of finally saying to ourselves, enough is enough? It really feels like we've reached that point. Because if it isn't enough now, when is it enough? Is it enough when the Mets lose 8 of 9 games? Is it enough when the Mets are 2.5 games out first? Where is the line that David Stearns has to say it is time to make a change? The Mets, as is stated in the chat here, it's true, have a 5.10 ERA since June 14th. But context is important. What has happened since June 14th? The Mets have had Kodai Senga, Sean Manaea, Tyler McGill, Griffin Canning all go down with injury over that span. all the more reason to step right up and consider one of the kids. Yeah, here we are on August 3rd, days after the deadline, with no ability to add reinforcements outside of internal options, and we are all screaming or frustrated because we all have seen the same exact thing for month and month on end. I am not a pessimistic fan. If you guys know me, I live and die with my team. When they're riding high, I'm riding electric. But I still understand if they have glaring issues in certain areas. The same way that even when they're really at their lowest, I know that there's still potential for them to rally back. If there's anything that the 2024 Mets proved to us, it's that if you can get out of an 11-game hole below 500, you can basically get out of anything. So I do not sit here today to say that the Mets stand no chance in playoffs or World Series. But what I do sit here and say is that what we have seen with the eye test, with the statistical test throughout so far this season, you cannot be overly instilled in confidence as a Mets fan to think that this team will get far when evaluating their rotation and their inconsistencies with their offense. We have more time to be had. We still have more baseball in the month of August. We have more baseball in the month of September. All these things are true. But having said that, this brings me back to my initial point. When is enough enough? And you want to know why it's so imperative to consider one of these kids, in case I didn't talk about that already, guys? We're going to get into that shortly, but before we do, I got to give a massive shout out to my sponsors today that make today's show possible, and that is including the following. At SeatGeek, guys, head over to SeatGeek and utilize their app. As you guys can see here, it's so easy to navigate, and I love their grading scale system. You have red to green, meaning if you buy a ticket in the more green area, 7 through 10 range, it's a great bang for your buck. If you buy a ticket in the red range, 1 through 4, it's a terrible bang for your buck and you're overspending. So SeatGeek, with over 70,000 active events to choose from, making them the #1 rated ticketing app in the game today for a reason, has you covered for Mets tickets, comedy show tickets, NFL tickets with a season right around the corner, you name it. Check them out and utilize our promo code WARDY10 for 10% off your next ticket purchase. Click that link down below in the description, guys. Thank you so much to everyone that's been utilizing our promo code WARDY10 throughout the season, as well as our other amazing sponsor at BetUS that has you covered for all of your sports betting needs. Bet responsibly, that's the most important thing, but should you wish to do so, head over to betus.com.pa today and utilize our promo code YouTube150. That is, again, YouTube150, because you're going to get a 150% bonus on your first deposit. And as you guys can see here, they have not only picks, props, plays, you name it, but also some fun stats as well. Willie Mays began with the New York Giants, moved to San Fran, and returned to NYC in 1972 to help the Mets reach the 1973 World Series. That is true. I did know that, but in case you guys didn't know, talk about this Giants-Mets series a little bit more. We have Willie Mays, one of the best to ever do it in Major League Baseball history, on the pedestal. So if you guys hammered the Jets money line today, you came out, not the Jets, I'm sorry, the Giants money line today, you came out like a bandit. If you guys bet against the Mets here, you came like a bandit if you won on Friday and today. So again, guys, whether it's Mets picks, props, plays, you name it, whether it's going to be more on the casino front or different plays there in the sports betting place, our friends at BetUS again have you covered. Bet responsibly. Now, let's get into this and let's talk about the kiddos a little bit, because what do I have to say about the kiddos, everybody? I have the following to say. Hit that like and subscribe button on your way in, folks, too. It does really mean a lot. And let's begin here with the following. What do we see here? Ignore that, guys. That is not what I meant to show you. What I got to show you is right here, right now. It's this dog by the name of Brandon Sproat. Because you want to know what Brandon Sproat did, guys, in the month of July? He just had his most dominant month in AAA since being called up there towards the end of last season. 27 innings, a .670 ERA, including another 5 shutout outing on July 31st with 9 strikeouts, 33 strikeouts total in the month of July. Brandon Sproat is finally rearing back. He's finally throwing gas. And he's finally looking like that top pitching prospect that we were all drooling over for the majority of the 2024 calendar season. Sproat's locked in. He knows exactly what he needs to do to get to the bigs. The only problem is we have David Stern saying, listen, Brandon, let's just store you for the rest of the year in AAA, even though you're turning 25 soon, not getting any younger, and it's pretty much do or die now to consider you at the rotation. Let's just go ahead and let you marinate and rot away in AAA. That's the vibe that we continue to get. Now, I'm half joking as I say that. Obviously, Brandon Sproat did not start the season well. He really started to pick things up over the past, I would say, month and a half or so. And Vientos does have an 11-game hit streak. That's actually insane, Daniel. Everything's been lost in this. Mark Vientos hitting well continues to be lost in this. And a shout out to Mark for not only not getting traded, but continue to be productive every time he's been out there for this Mets team. He's not the problem. The problem is that we're not considering a flamethrower like Brandon Sproat. And what is one of the key factors into why Brandon Sproat is now looking more comfortable than ever in AAA? It's because in 2 or 3 of these starts that we saw over the past calendar month, who is catching this man? Newsflash, guys. It was, yes, Francisco El Troll Alvarez. Alvarez helped Sproat immensely during their time in Syracuse together. It's evident because Sproat has completely turned things on for the better since Alvarez was initially sent down there before the All-Star break. So now, even without Alvarez, Sproat's dominating. He's looking more and more like the guy that we hope to see at the major league level. And all I have to say is, what are we waiting for? If it isn't service time manipulation, it can't be anything else, because he has done that. He has proven exactly what you need him to do at the AAA level to say, hey, it's time for me to be considered. But okay, maybe you don't want Brandon Sproat. Maybe you're saying to yourself as a Mets fan, Brandon Sproat just doesn't move the needle for me. Okay, if Brandon Sproat doesn't move the needle for you, then it sure as shit better be Noah McLean. Because Noah McLean is moving the needle. Noah McLean has been the most consistent starter in AAA all year long. There's been no man moving up from the Rumble Ponies in the first month and a half of the season that has dominated as consistently as Noah McLean has. Look at this, everybody. 77 innings, 14 games, 11 starts, 55 hits allowed, as well as 32 walks, 26 earned runs, 83 strikeouts, a just over 3 ERA in AAA Syracuse. You know the last time I feel like that we've seen a starter dominate like this in AAA for a decent sample size? It's Christian Scott. And what was Christian Scott? He was one of, if not the most heralded pitching prospect in baseball before getting called up by the Mets in 2024, giving up meatballs every single outing he had because he looked good and then he give up a home run or two, and then you're like, damn, because he's serving up way too much down the pipe. And then he had reconstructive Tommy John surgery. Christian Scott will be in this rotation next season. He'll most certainly be competing for a spot, as will be the case in Jonathan, who's looking amazing in AA right now. But in the meantime, who are the first 2 arms that the Mets should be absolutely considering at this point in time? It is Noah McLean and Brandon Sproat. Look at McLean. Tell me how Noah McLean is not ready. He's got a frisbee for a sweeper. He's got a fastball with late movement. He has an entire multi-pitch arsenal that can play at the major league level right now. If you talk to any talent evaluator in the Mets organization, or specifically out of the organization that are more involved in pitching, they will all tell you that they are baffled that McLean and or Sproat has not at least made his major league debut yet. And I know, I too as a Mets fan, as someone who covers them for a living, too am baffled by this reality. But when you understand how service time manipulation works and want to make sure that you, of course, have everything set before calling up a guy, I just don't understand how much longer do we need to give these guys a leash at the minor league level before finally saying to yourself, it's time to give them the keys. My question to everybody watching this live and to the thousands on replay as well is simply as follows. Between Brandon Sproat, Noah McLean, and the other options, what do you want to see this Mets team do? Because when I take a look at our poll right now that we have in the chat, and guys, thank you so much for right around 100 likes. Help us get to a 200 plus likes to our 400 plus concurrent live viewers right now. That really mean a lot, everybody. Hit that like and subscribe on our way in as we're live reacting not only to the Mets getting curb stomped 12-4 in their series finale and dropping this series to the San Francisco Giants at home, but also getting into the fact that it's time for a change. It's time for the Mets to do something about this. When looking at the poll, everybody in our chat, out of roughly 500 votes already, 78% say call up Sproat and McLean. 7% say give Blackburn a shot over the kids. 1% say call up another Hageman type. And 15% say screw it, give me Jonathan. So I think it goes without saying, the vast majority of fans want one of Sproat or McLean. And I know David Stearns does not operate in the best interest of the fans as he operates in the best interest of the organization. But holy shit, when you get Gary Cohen and Ron Darling making it abundantly clear how much they want to see one of these kids consider now, don't you think it's time to consider them? So folks, what I will tell you is that if one of these arms is in fact called up in the next couple of days to a week, the Mets are finally pushing the stupid notion aside of, oh, we need to wait. We can't call them up as a team need or desperation, because that's exactly what they'd be doing. Oh, you know what? We're finally going to say we'll eat that first year of service time, when, mind you, they should have just started that a month and a half ago before the deadline or so. That way, it wouldn't look as egregious as, oh, and they consider them now. You kind of look stupid, right? Here's the thing. How does Stearns not look stupid for, in hand, not calling up someone pre-All-Star break for the purpose of service time manipulation to then consider one of them a week or so before they would be ineligible to have that first year eaten, right? So Stearns has a chance to not only right the wrong here, but just completely contradict himself. That's what we want to see. But what's likely going to happen, and what I've been telling you guys since the start of this conversation, sadly, I do not say this as a happy man, as I say this as just a matter of fact. Paul Blackburn is getting the call next, more than likely. Barring changes, Paul Blackburn threw 90-plus pitches in AAA Syracuse yesterday. He looked good. He actually didn't look that bad. Problem, though, is when does Paul Blackburn look good for this Mets team beyond like one start? You know, the Mets acquired him at the deadline last year. Yet Paul Blackburn has been more of a man that's been stuck in rehab. And when I say rehab, I'm obviously referring to his injuries, than it has been of him being at all decent for this team, at all useful. The Mets are absolutely going to consider Paul Blackburn next. They may very well have him set for the next turn in the order. And then Tyler McGill was just pitching at Citi Field today, guys. Get ready. Big trip's coming. But the problem is we have no clue what we're getting with him. Then let's add in this. Then let's add in this little wrinkle for each and every one of you. Just in case you want to get a little bit more frustrated. Just in case you want to figure out, oh my God, literally, what are we doing here? And I want to give a big shout out to my guy, Meek Phil. If you guys don't know Meek, he's a good Mets follower on X as well. And he laid this out really, really well that I want to share with each and every one of you. And it is as follows. Let's go ahead and minimize that. Let's go over here. Let's do this. Bang, bang, boom. And okay. As you guys can see all with me, and mind you, that was again from Gary Cohen and Ron Darling earlier. That was my tweet because that was right on the broadcast. Then you see this. Shout out to Meek. Tyler McGill from May 4th to June 14th. 8 starts, 37.1 innings, a 5.79 ERA. Frankie Montas since making his debut on June 24th. 7 starts, 32.2 innings, and a 6 ERA. We're about 4 months of one spot in the rotation being complete batting practice. And I understand these guys are supposed to be on the back end. I'm not expecting these guys to go out and light the lamp and be studs every single time out there. But this is a liability. And this is every turn of the rotation, you have at least one starter that's a lock to be garbage. You know how many opportunities the kids could have had over that 4-month stretch? You know how much we could have missed the nonsense of, oh, I'm David Stearns. I don't want to call up one of the kids because I don't want to utilize them in a spot start. Yet you had ample opportunity over this 4-month stretch to consider them for just 1 month. It didn't even need to be 2 months. It could have just been 1 month, meaning 4, 5 starts over that stretch. Yeah, no, that is too much to ask for if you're a Mets fan that just wants to get a different, younger, more vibrant, and higher upside option to consider in the rotation over 2 guys who have been a liability and over 2 guys that are more than likely not going to be anything close to a needle mover for you, barring changes. Now, as I say this, if Paul Blackburn comes out and dominates, thank you, Paul Blackburn. You are a saving grace. I never thought it, but I'm not going to complain if it happens. If Tyler McGill comes back and he looks good, the way that you guys can see right here, McGill was throwing BP today that we saw at Citi Field. If he comes in and looks great, then awesome. I'm not complaining. But the reason why we don't have confidence in this is not that we don't like these players, as it's the matter of fact of what they have not done consistently at the major league level. Why should we think it's going to change now? Let alone deep in August when everyone's pushing for playoffs and everyone's thirsty for big wins. It just doesn't make sense. That, my friends, is why we have ourselves the latest WardyNYM TED Talk, as I half-jokingly say that. But man, oh man, does this piss me off beyond belief. It really does. And I know, maybe I sound spoiled as some of you opposing baseball fans out there. Why is this guy rambling when his team's arguably in first place? Because first place doesn't mean shit if you do not feel at all confident in your team getting far. And it's not about the fact that I don't love my Mets, because I do love my Mets. This has nothing to do with that. If you guys follow me, you know I live and die with the orange and blue. No doubt about it. But the same time that we will be uplifted and happy when things go right in Mets land, it's the same way that we're going to call things out as we see on a nightly basis, as we've watched on a nightly basis for months, to give us an understanding as to what is right and what is wrong with this team. We know that the Mets, even when they were 11 games below 500, were still a better team than what that record made them out to be, right? And then when they started to get hot, a lot of teams underestimated them when we knew damn well that when they started to get hot, they were really something special. Now you look at this team, because when we take a look at the standings right now, everybody, the Mets are tied, or pardon me, the Phillies are technically in first place. Are the Phillies in first? Let's take a look at this right. Let me go ahead and double check this right now as a matter of fact, just to see. Did the Phillies win or lose today? I don't know off the top of the dome. Let's see. My goodness, great. I feel like I haven't breathed in 40 minutes. That's how mad I am. We see down here, Philadelphia Phillies. Where are you, Phils? Where are you, schmucks? Come on. Why can't I find you? Every other game I can... Oh, they don't play until tonight. Okay, so Charlie Morton towing the rubber for his Detroit Tigers debut. Whoop-de-doo! So excited to see him face the dominant southpaw Christopher Sanchez. It's a big game. Don't get me wrong. The Tigers may win. If the Tigers win tonight, the Mets are still in first. If the Tigers lose tonight, the Mets are out of first. Regardless, I don't care about who's in first right now nearly as much as what I care about is this team locking the hell in and playing the baseball that we need them to play. Because what have the Mets not done since the second month of the season? It shouldn't take long to figure this out. All right, I'll just tell you right away. The Mets haven't played consistent baseball since the first 2 months of the year. That's a fact. Their pitching far exceeded expectations. Their offense, while it wasn't on a roll completely, you had Pete Alonso carrying the way. You had Lindor really hot early. Soto was not it. And then when Soto did get hot, the rest of the offense faltered. The fact that Nathanson, Marcus Stroman is available, and the fact that we're so damn desperate that I'm sure that the Mets would actually look at Stroman for a second before going forward shows you how sad of a circumstance we're in. Now, Marcus Stroman, I'm not going to beat a drum on. I'm just going to tell you, if you think things have been bad with Frankie Montas, you have no clue what you're getting yourself into if you consider someone like Marcus Stroman. And Marcus Stroman is such a liability just based on his personality alone that I pray to God that that man never even gets close to Flushing Queens again. And I say that as someone who thoroughly enjoyed and loved Stroman's time in Toronto, who loved his time with the Mets in his first year and a half here. I was a big Stro guy. Height doesn't measure heart. I'm short as shit. It was really easy to buy into. But you know what's hard to buy into? When Marcus Stroman goes on X on almost a daily basis and would rag on Keith Hernandez and call him vile things just because Keith was a normal talent evaluator and didn't say anything wrong about Marcus, but just shared his respective opinion like any other analyst does, say the same shit about Ron Darling and others, just to delete all the tweets like the sorry, insecure little man that he is. That's why he's covered head to toe in tattoos. It's not because of the fact that he loves the look. It's because that's his vice. That's his way of expression. It's because he himself is probably the most insecure player in Major League Baseball, regardless of what his reasons are. And everyone has them. And I'm not saying that he's been treated fair by fans, because I know he hasn't. But instead of just taking to a chin and staying off of social media like the abundance of players do, when, mind you, they still see what you say, they just don't bother getting involved because they know that they're greater than a fan just yapping at them. Stroman doesn't know how to separate the two. And he also doesn't know how to handle the fact that when his ego gets hurt, he'd rather go out and post how much he lives a lavish lifestyle than to try to make you think it's anything otherwise. So that's my little tangent on Stro. I'm not going to go on beyond that. Just, you know, Marcus Stroman is not happening. Jojo, great member as always. I really do appreciate that. Jojo states the following: Wardy, you ain't rambling. You sure? I feel like I'm rambling at least a little bit, but thank you so much. You're talking truth and winning strategy. Thank you for giving us voice for what true fans are also understanding. I appreciate that, Jojo. Thank you for being a great member. Thank you so much for that donation as well. We're happy to have Jojo in the chat. Let's get some love and hype in the chat for Jojo. We appreciate that. Thank you. Stearns did nothing after we saw Griffin Canning go down with injury. And there was a belief that Canning wouldn't even be in this rotation in the second half. But even having said that, why not do more? There were opportunities. There were arms available in the waiver wire over a period of time so the Mets could have considered over their own internal options. And they didn't even do that. They went as far as Justin Hageman and Brendan Waddell and Blade Tidwell. That's not enough. And you know how many of those games we lost? Most of them. Most of them. So miss me with the nonsense that, oh, but listen, guys, we utilize these spot start arms, but, you know, the Mets are still arguably in first place. Who cares? Buddy, think about how much more of a lead that they could have if they had competence when they had starters out there that day. Instead, Justin Hageman, who, mind you, wasn't a liability but couldn't go deep, was okay in his debut. The Mets lost in Minneapolis because Harrison Bader is a prick. Then we see, and now he's on the Phillies, so it's fitting. Then we see Justin Hageman's next outing. Not good. Not good at all. Brandon Waddell had like one good outing. Outside of that, not a lot to be inspired by. He threw a complete game no-no in Double-A yesterday on his rehab assignment. Congratulations to Brandon. But that ain't a needle mover for me. That ain't saying, oh, we got to call him up now. Look at the options the Mets have and tell me that Brandon Sproat and McLean aren't the most prime options to consider right here, right now. You can't. because there's no other better options. Other than Jonathan, and here's what I have to say about that. Are we just going to let Jonah rot away in Double A this year? Do we need Jonathan to have a full year in Double A while consistently being the best starter in Double A and consistently striking out more than any other pitcher in all the minor leagues? Is that what we need? We need a whole year of him with the Robo Ponies? No, we don't need that. What we need is the same effing aggression that David Stearns had with so many of his call-ups this year in the minor leagues, specifically on the reliever front. He needs to have that mentality with Jonathan, because you're not rushing a kid who's been consistently dominating, posting a 1.7 to a 1.8 ERA in Double A all year long. He has nothing else to prove. Let's see. Emerson says, Wardy, I hate to say it, but a small collapse or a choke incoming for the Mets, especially since we face the magical Marlins in final series. Now, I will say this about those magical Marlins. Shout out to the Marlins for playing amazing baseball against the Yankees. Are you kidding me? I know that it was mostly sold out in Miami over the past couple of days because of Yankees fans attending, but Marlins and their players ate that up for breakfast. Kyle Stowers is amazing. And the Orioles and Mike Elias, you're an effing idiot. I called you an idiot last year for trading away Stowers as well as Connor Norby there for Trevor Rogers. Rogers was horrendous for you last year. He's good for you this year, but it doesn't matter because you're not sniffing playoffs. Incompetence that you can see from a mile away that we saw at last year's deadline. Kyle Stowers is a stud. I didn't realize it at the time when he was facing the Mets earlier this summer. Going back to, cold April games. I didn't think Stowers was going to be that good, but he's amazing. He's batting right around 300, plenty of bombs, worth of 80 RBIs. He's helping the Marlins get closer to playoffs than the Atlanta Braves can ever sniff this year. Like, imagine that. Aren't the Marlins 500 now? Let's check the tape. Let's go back here. Are the Miami Marlins, oh my God, they're 500 now. Now, I'm not expecting the Marlins to make playoffs, but the fact that the Marlins are 55-55 is insane. Actually insane. And they deserve so much credit for that, not to get on a huge tangent here. They deserve so much credit for that because they didn't trade away Sandy. They didn't trade away Cabrera. I call them schmucks for not doing it, but maybe it works out in the end. Maybe the Marlins, in their first full rebuild year under Peter Bendix, F around and nip and sniff a wild card spot. I don't anticipate it to happen, but oh my goodness gracious, have they been entertaining. You have to give them credit or credit's due. And yeah, the more I think about it, the more I don't want to face Miami towards the end of the season. But if I'm a Mets fan, shaking my boots about the Miami Marlins, why the hell am I watching any of these games? Because if we're worried about the Miami Marlins, there's no point of even watching the season because we're not going to go anywhere. The Marlins can't be this team's kryptonite. What this team's kryptonite should be is themselves, and it has been a large part of that problem. Runner and scoring position woes, as well as starter woes. Those things are very true. As Zach states in the chat, the Marlins are 29-14 over the last 43 games. Same stretch the Mets are 18-25. Wow, that's actually kind of crazy. It is. And I have some more crazy statistics to relay your way, everybody, just in case you guys are wondering. Because, yeah, I got a lot to say about the shit show that was not only the Mets today, but how they need to get something fixed sooner rather than later. Okay, let's bear in mind the following, everybody. Not including today, Mets starters have, and it's probably inflated to a 5-year rate now, a 4.7 ERA. Sixth worst in Major League Baseball, and a .8 Fangraphs WAR, second worst since June 13th. Now, that's a 42-game sample, and I understand the injuries. The context there is important, for sure. But having said that, what has gotten so much better about this rotation since? Not all that much. With the exception of the Simone Southpaw and Shamanai being a dog in his limited innings, and David Pearson, one right, still giving you a solid 2 earned run outing across 6 innings. The Mets' extra innings defeat on this past Friday. There's nothing there. There's little to nothing there. Not that Kodai Senga can't get back to being the guy that he is. We all know he can be. And I'm not overly concerned with Kodai at this point in time. But here's one more thing that we should bear in mind. I've spent almost an hour talking all this to you without emphasizing one so vital of a piece of information that cannot be lost in this. If any of the Mets' key starters go down with injury, they are beyond royally you-know-what. There's no external additions. You have Paul Blackburn and Tyler McGill as your reinforcements should those things happen immediately. That's your 5 and 6 starter usually. Let's not get it twisted. That's what they are. That's what they will be. God forbid, if anything goes awry with this rotation, I'm not talking performance. I'm talking health. The same thing that's plagued this team every single year. If any of that happens, this team is beyond royally effed. And then that further amplifies considering the kids and completely contradicting what all the comments in the first half were. Oh, we can't call up the kids because it's going to hurt their confidence if they don't do well. Oh, we can't call up the kids because why rush them up and have them face that pressure? Oh, we can't call up the kids because we need to make sure we don't hurt their service time. Oh, this and that. It's bullshit is what it is. That's what it is. It's BS. I'm tired of it. And to the point of DK in the chat, you're more than likely right. Blackburn and McGill are definitely coming up before Sproat and McLean. You see how disgusting that sounds? Because it is. This is not a personal slight on Paul Blackburn, nor is this a personal slight on Tyler McGill. We know what they have to offer, and while Tyler McGill, at his best, does have some great stuff, we have been through this with Tyler for north of 5 years now. We know him at his best, and we know him at his worst. Even at Tyler's best, he has not been great for beyond usually a month sample size. When we look at Paul Blackburn, as best, he is a back-end starter that can give you 5 to top 7 innings of hopefully 3 earned run baseball or less while inducing a lot of ground ball outs. This falls on Stearns, is what this falls on. And the same way that I love David for the bullpen, and I truly do love him for Helsley, for Rogers, everything that they did there. He nailed it. David Stearns had one of the most productive trade deadlines out of any team. That's a fact. You can't say it isn't because it is. But you can also say that while you appreciate what David did on the bullpen side, on the outfield side with Mullins, is the same way that you could say that you don't appreciate David Stearns' incompetence with trying to handle this rotation. They took one too many risks in configuring this rotation heading into the season, is what they did. And you want to know the crazy thing, everybody? You want to know the crazy thing? Luis Severino on the road has been perfectly fine all year long. Hasn't been good at home, but that's because he hates playing in Sacramento. It doesn't have to do with the fact of his performance, as has more to do with the fact that he just hates to play in a destination. On the road, he's in similarity to what he was last year, and I promise you his arsenal would be better if he was with the Mets. Jose Quintana, while he's not the best pitcher in the world, we're taking Jose Quintana every single day of the week and that veteran leadership in the back end of this rotation over what Frankie Montas could give us right now. It's a hindsight 2020 thing. I completely understand. But it's a results-oriented business. I'm going to pull the Carlos Mendoza and David Stearns card because they like to say this a lot. It's a results-oriented business, and that's what it is. Okay, so based on the results, everybody, what do we see? We see shit that we call this configuration, this rotation. We see shit of this bullpen, headlined by Ryan Stanek. A lot of it's good, but Stanek has been the one commonality of being bad for a hot minute now. And I like Ryan. I want Ryan for playoffs, but the problem is we're too far removed from playoffs still. I don't know if we can justify keeping this man in the bullpen until then. Maybe they will. We'll find out. Before I let you all go today, because I'm not going to be too crazy along here with this, I needed to let off a lot of steam. Hit that like and subscribe button if you guys haven't. We got over 400 concurrent viewers. Can at least half you guys hit the like button if you enjoyed the content? Would greatly be appreciated, as well as subscribing, because this Thursday, everybody, we're giving away a Mets jersey to one lucky subscriber for hitting 34,000 subscribers on the platform. Thank you so much again for that. And we're also doing a members-only live Q&A segment, barring changes. That'll be separate from that live show as well. Both planning to happen late Thursday on the Mets off day. So be on the lookout for that. Wardy, I'd rather watch you pitch over Montas. Let's not get crazy, Mike. Let's not get crazy. I'm going to blow my shoulder out, my elbow, everything while throwing an ephus 50-mile-per-hour meatball. It's Dom Smith to rip a bomb. But I understand the point that you're that frustrated with this rotation that you'll take a schmuck like me and my short ass, toe that rubber, see if I can do anything different. I don't know. Maybe I'm pulling Marcus Stroman. Height doesn't measure heart. Maybe I can give you guys a solid outing every once in a while. Daniel Caps with a great comment states the following: Wardy, I'd rather watch you offbeat bop to the song than watch this team right now. That's good. That is good. That is good. Trust me. I wish I was doing the post game jingle right now. You and I both. We're in the same category there. Analytics has ruined Soto. I don't think that's true. What's hurting Soto this season is less analytics and more of there's too much eye for him when this is a team game. And we've all known this with Soto. We knew this when we were acquiring Soto, but it has been apparent. Juan Soto is barely batting a $190 with runners in scoring position this season. Did I forget to mention that that's also the best mark he's had this year in that regard? I didn't forget it. I just told you. Juan Soto's not hit a home run with 2 to 3 men on base this year. Maybe he's hit like one with 2 guys on base, but that's been about it. It's been so few and far in between. He's underperforming his metrics. Thank you, NYM, in the chat. Exactly. He is underperforming. Yeah, you're 100% right. Chavez, don't get me started with Chavez. Eric's more concerned about answering your DMs after the Mets go 0 for 14 with runners in scoring position again and telling you how much he doesn't care about it. That's what I have to say about Eric Chavez. Chavez, I will be shocked if he's here with the Mets next season. If the Mets win it all this year, he's coming back. If the Mets fall short, and it goes in direct hand because of top players underperforming, his ass, I promise you, will get the axe. And he knows that. Him and Jeremy Barnes know that very well. That's why it's been probably a very frustrating and stressful year for them both, because they continue to not find the proper answers that this team needs. But that's irrelevant to what we're talking about right now. What I'm talking about is a Mets pitching staff that's a problem. And when we have seen this for time and time again this season, and nothing's being done about it, by God, something needs to be done about it. Wardy, at what point will you say that the Mets are terrible and are probably first round exit? Emerson, this is where immediate reaction can't get lost from the long-term vision. You can't call the Mets terrible when they are still where they are this season. They're not a terrible team. Anyone who thinks the Mets are terrible aren't paying attention. Are they flawed? Absolutely. Just like any club in baseball. But the notion that they're terrible is stupid. Let's not fall in that category because they aren't. They have a lot of pieces, but their pieces have not been in unison for the vast majority of the season. That is true. When the Mets have had maybe the Fab Four working, they haven't had the kids working. When they've had the kids working, they haven't had the Fab Four working all that much. When they have all worked in one, we get a big blowout victory like what we saw yesterday, where the Mets had 8 hits with runners in scoring position. Otherwise, there's not a whole lot to love there. Their bullpen is disgustingly good. I love this Mets bullpen configuration. I think it's electric. If I'm being honest with you, I wish that the bullpen could be more of the rotation in the sense of just how much high quality there is there. But that isn't the case right now. What the case is for this Mets team, as they still currently sit multiple games above 500, still borderline first in the National League East, is as follows. They're a very good team that has flaws. And these flaws, just like any other team in baseball, will get further exposed throughout the stretch down the season, as well as postseason play. You know how the New York Yankees looked like a little league club to the Dodgers in the World Series? That was because the Yankees cruised through the regular season in a weak American League in 2024 while having one of the most fundamentally broken teams that baseball had to offer, yet no one batted an eye to it until it was too little too late. This is why we call out the ship months in advance and hopes that the team itself can try to right the ship in these respective areas before it's too little too late. Yet if playoff starts tomorrow, there's little to no chance in hell that this team gets where we want them to go because, again, they did not fix their issues before it was too little too late. Thank you once more for coming to Wardy's TED Talk. That'll do it for our latest post-game show rant session. When are the kids getting the call? That is what your guy Wardy has to say to each and every one of you. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you kindly for hitting that like and subscribe on your way in and on your way out. I greatly appreciate that. Jay, I apologize for wrapping up the show now, so go back to the start and see if you found yourself enjoying the segment. Be on the lookout, everybody. We will have a video likely dropping tomorrow, as well as a post-game show, if not just a post-game show. I may be in studio there with the post tomorrow. I'm not exactly sure yet. It really will be indicative on both of our schedules, so to be determined on that front. Maybe you'll see me ranting there from the studio. Maybe I'll just be ranting here from home. Either way, we will have more Mets content every single day, as we always do here on the platform. Thank you guys again so much for watching live on a replay. Have a fantastic rest of your night to evening, whenever you watch this. Try to enjoy the rest of your day the way that I know I'm going to try to do that and do the same. I might see Superman. We might get a little crazy. I guess we'll find out. Have a great night, everybody. Love you all to death. And as always, no matter what,